my interview that I had set for today switched to next week. She just had a baby, so things are kind of up in the air with scheduling. So it worked out perfect because I was already going to be down here. So
that's cool. How are you doing? How's the kids and the family doing with everything related to this pandemic that we're going through? Is everybody okay?
Oh yeah, everyone's good. Yeah, I've been working the whole time, and aside from the masks and stuff, everything's pretty normal as far as the home front goes.
Yeah, now you got like a new setup for your office with Eagle Vision.
Yeah, that's nice, man.
Dude, it's awesome. Yeah, they let me use it as a studio, so it's been real good. So I'm down here quite a bit, down in the Pearl in Portland.
Are you far from Bend? That's Oregon at all?
A couple hours.
Our friend Ben Rosette from Strawberry Girls. I don't know if you're familiar with their music. They're like a instrumental rock band, but they're not too far from there. Yeah, I've never been out to the West Coast. Zach's actually gonna be in California momentarily soon, I believe.
Like in a month, yeah. I'll be out there
just for some business. So
sweet.
He will be absent for a little bit on the podcast. But yeah, dude. I mean, thank you for coming by. Really appreciate this. Worked out really well, like you just said. Everything kind of just came to fruition. And you've been doing podcasting a lot longer than we have, so I think there's a lot of things that we might possibly learn from you just sitting down and hanging. So
well, cool. Yeah, I'm sorry it took so long to get it set up. It's just been literally since the EVR partnership and everything. Like it's just been exploding where interview requests are coming in like crazy, and I had a bunch of stuff scheduled already, and it's just been. I keep telling. I get back to Becky like, all right, we're gonna make this happen. I just want to. And so finally, I was just like, okay, we're making this happen. Let's do it. Okay,
that's good, man. Congrats.
But sorry about that. But I try to be as easy as possible. But it's just been nuts with that. And I've got put on 60-hour weeks at work for 3 weeks straight, which really sucks for getting anything else scheduled. So anyway, enough about that. Yeah. But there you have it.
But as a DIY approach, you've been doing this for quite some time, right? Like I believe like 6-7 years, I would say.
4 years.
4 years?
4 years this month.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. And like Thanks. When you started out, how did you go about, getting interested in it? Because I know that you were previously on tour and then you came home for family reasons to, do that. And then your interest picked back up with, being in the music industry and involving yourself into podcasts.
Yeah, it was a big gap because I came back from tour in 2007 with no other prospects to go out. So I was just kind of like, well, it's time to start real life, and did that. And then I just started. I went, I don't know, probably something like 9 or 10 years, I think. No, 8 or 9 years. Yeah, because I started the podcast in 2016. So. Yeah, anyway, but I wasn't going to shows or anything. I was just working and doing the family thing. And I started going to shows again. Friends started coming through. And I think it was the Thrice guys that came through and got me back into it again. And I didn't want to go tour. So I'd started listening to podcasts. And I didn't know what they were at the time. I started listening to a couple. And like, man, I could do that. And so, yeah, just got some like cheap gear and went for it. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. I knew I liked talking to people, and I knew I liked. That wasn't a problem for me, but like being able to steer the conversation and keep things on track or off track in the right way was soon to be found out. So, yeah, it was pretty much that. Like I just wanted to do it and set it up and started doing it.
So were you like completely like detached from music for the most part for like almost a decade?
Yeah.
Just not even going to shows or anything. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Shows come through Portland. Well, did all the time. And I just didn't go. I was just like, I'd rather do this. And yeah. So I didn't even pick up the guitar for, I don't know, 5 years. I just kind of got burnt out. So
sometimes you really need that though. I mean, like, I know plenty of people that like at some point, I mean, everybody gets into it, like, and it's kind of like it's a tool for you to kind of express yourself clearly. But once you get to a point where it's like you're relying on the money and it becomes more like a job, and you're not one of these top tier groups that's making a lot of money. It is like kind of like a 9 to 5 grind in terms of like the income that you're getting. you kind of like you fall out of love with it, and sometimes you need that step back, take yourself away from it to really appreciate it again. So
yeah, that's what it got to be. It got to be a job. It was a job. I didn't I was a touring guitarist for Portugal the Man, so I was having a blast. I didn't have any responsibilities except to be on stage and play. I didn't have to drive anything. I didn't have to I loaded sometimes. But it just got to be a job, and I realized I was playing songs that I didn't write. And it was just kind of like it was an interesting situation being a hired hand and or a hired gun, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it was interesting. So I just started getting jaded. Like you just get a day sheet every morning. It tells you where you are and if it's sold out or not and where your hotel is and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the same. Like there was no adventure left. It was already planned out and done for you. So
did you ever try and write for them? Did you have anything that like you kind of presented?
No. John, that's John's game.
Yeah.
John writes everything.
Works out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Kyle writes, a lot of piano stuff and I'm sure Eric contributes now. But I was never in that position to contribute that way with that band.
Yeah. And speaking with hired gun, I mean, have you ever seen the documentary of a series like that? I can't remember. Yeah, it was actually fairly interesting. And being Zach and I are musicians ourselves, I've been an original act for a while, but the thing of the matter is, like, I feel like there's a lot of passion that goes into writing with the music. And I don't know, I saw that documentary and I got an opportunity to be a hired gun one time, and I don't know if that was just my gig. It's just you're there to play, and then that's your job. But at the same time, you can unfortunately get dropped in a matter of seconds. I think it was Bob Dylan's band that he dropped because of management, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I know my buddy Blasco was in that documentary, I think. He plays for Ozzy and he played for Rob Zombie and Danzig and all sorts of guys. But he, his thing, you just got to be likable. I mean, you got to just get along. You got to make, the other person feel good. My other buddy Juan, played for Marilyn Manson. He got in a bike accident a while back. He's recovering from that, but basically said your job is to make sure that person is comfortable with that. So say in this case, Marilyn Manson, that he gets on stage and he feels like he's doing what he's always done. Like you don't put your own flair on it. Your job is to play those songs the way they're supposed to be played. And if you're not in it for 10 seconds, he said Manson will be breathing down your neck because he'll realize you're not into it. He's that on point.
Especially with his shows, crazy. I mean, like you have to have that energy there.
Yeah, theatrical wise. Buddy Rich was the same way. I mean, Buddy Rich, like if you ever heard his bus tapes, he would go off on his musicians like if they were like really off on a note or two at a couple shows.
I bet. That's the stuff you never saw because there was no internet back then.
Yeah, I think they said the same thing about Frank Zappa, and like Frank Zappa is obviously like a virtuoso, and it's just I've heard stories and just like reading about him that like if anybody was even like a hair off, he would like throw shit at you, just gonna be a complete asshole about. But like you kind of need that, and like I bet you after that you are touring with guys like that or playing with guys like that, expecting that kind of energy from you, like it does make you a better musician and a better professional at the end of the day. It's just a lot of pressure in the moment. Sure.
Yeah, and a tight schedule, and everything about it is wild.
Yeah, I miss the touring days though. I mean, it's a shame, and I talked with my band recently. We had some success, but I kind of like took a step back and said I'm glad we didn't get successful. Due to this unfortunate circumstance with, a global pandemic that nobody saw coming, straight out of left field. And I feel for, like, all of our friends who have been on the podcast. I mean, not just musicians, but, like, industry professionals in general. Touring is their bread and butter. All those roadies, all those sound guys, girls, production quality, like, marketing, everything. It's a shame that, like, this industry is going to be the last to open up. And we're doing our best to get through what we have going on right now. So hopefully that changes soon.
Yeah, I hope so as well.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, it's like with live streaming with these bands too. It's like, how many times can you really do that in a couple months?
Yeah.
Whereas like they're on the road full time. every day, pushing and trucking along and such. It's just hard to see. And hopefully we could be able to resume too. And the podcast industry has been picking up. Like, I actually started this podcast due to the fact that, I wasn't doing much because the industry closed down, and then I just started rolling off, and basically on a DIY situation, kind of like you did, started back in, a couple of years ago or 4 years ago. What were like some of the difficult things that you had to, really push through when you first started this out? Because we're not even on year 1 yet. I think we're on like 6 months right now. So
Okay.
What do you think some of the most difficult things were in the beginning when you started the podcast?
Well, the first difficult thing was a good thing at the same time, but I reached out to about 25 friends and a couple people I didn't know and asked them if they'd be interested in coming on the show, and they all said yes except for one of them. So then I was like, shit, I have to record 24 interviews, and how am I going to do this? So that immediately was like, okay, this is a good thing, but I don't know how I'm going to do this. So then the other spot was, we were all living in an apartment still. So it's like, where am I going to record this thing? And so that the DIY thing with most things is just, you have no other option. So I don't think anyone really chooses to go about things in a difficult way, or if they could have it easier, they would probably take it. So I started recording between my car or my van.
Really?
Which I did the first about 20 episodes I did at my cousin's house, because they would go to church on Sundays for like 3 hours. And they're like, you could just pop up to Vancouver here, use my husband's office. So I would drive up there, and my cousin and her husband would leave for church, and I would set up in his office, and I would schedule 3 interviews in a row, an hour each, for 3 hours, and I would literally go the whole time. And that was awesome, but I was using a microphone, like the Blue Yeti microphone.
Yeah. The go-to.
Picks up everything. And I didn't realize like what I needed and what I wanted. So it was just growing pains that way. Let's see. Figuring out what gear to buy, where to record, how to get it online, and not get ripped off on stuff like that. Those were difficult to do. And then actually executing all the conversations got stressful, but we made it through it. We got them all done. So
yeah, because that's the whole point of the podcast. You're in for the long haul with a story or a conversation that can go over, an hour to possibly 2 hours, depending on, who you're talking to and how well the conversation is going. And that's an art in itself. And on that note, it's like, I'm sure I've definitely had it sometimes where I had difficulty trying to connect with that guest that is a complete stranger. Because in the beginning, it was like you said, like I hit up most of my friends and they all said, yeah, besides like a few, which was easy. Like it was like we were just hanging out, all over again. But at the same time, you have guests that you're reaching out to start this, as a full-time gig. And it's hard to bring out conversation to some people. That's just who they are.
yeah,
Personally.
yeah, it is. It's there's definitely been ups and downs with that too. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. Conversation it's an art form, I think. And it's something that, not everyone, that you think would be the best conversationalists will be, that's what or depends on the day. Maybe they're having an off day. Maybe it's like when you meet someone famous and they blow you off, but maybe they, have been throwing up all day and they've got to go on in 10 minutes. They just want to eat some dinner and go, but you're running up asking for an autograph or a picture. You can't really gauge things on that, but you also can't prep for them either.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like another thing is trying to like hit on points that people like, especially, you have a lot of contacts in the industry still, and it's just trying to find things that somebody that doesn't have access to these kind of conversations, stuff they want to hear and the stuff they want to ask. And like that, I think that's a little bit harder sometimes just because we are so used to talking to these people that we kind of become too familiar. And it's just more like we already know the basics of everything that we're going to ask anyway. So it's just, it's trying to focus on what people that are watching for this kind of content, what they want to hear and what they want to ask themselves too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think you have the voice for podcasting, in my opinion. I don't know. It's just very like
You do. You got like
smooth
that
and
deep,
humble.
yeah, that bait.
Yeah, dude. It's nice.
Maybe
I'm
it's like that. Maybe
like
it's the
warm
West
gravy.
Coast vibe, man. That's what it is. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's
Warm
warm, gravy,
gravy.
man.
warm gravy.
Dustin Kenzer and I were talking about this on his episode because I was like, as he talks very softly and kind of in broken pieces, like he's got a very interesting style, and we've known each other a long time, 20 some years, and in the middle, I'm just sitting there and I'm just like lulling myself, not to sleep, but I'm just relaxed. And I'm like, man, this is like a deep voice competition. Like we're just mixing warm gravy. And finally got him to laugh because he was so serious the whole time, which was funny because he's not serious. And it just became a deep voice competition. Yeah, it's something that I never thought about before either. Is I was always thinking about a singing voice or guitar stuff, but never speaking. But
yeah, like when I started this podcast in the beginning, I was like really trying to seek out for inspiration and just trying to see like how the music podcast has been going. And like the two that I prominently found before I started this was the Peer Pleasure podcast and Finn McKenzie's podcast. Those were like the two that really stuck out to me.
Punk Rock MBA.
Yeah, Punk Rock MBA. Yeah, so they really stuck out to me. So I was able to actually get a couple opportunities to like listen to both sides of it. So I've listened to some of the Peer Pleasure. Got a chance to listen to some of his podcasts. So there's not a lot out there too, and it's great that we're able to bring out that content to the public for what people are really interested in for conversation pieces.
Sure. Yeah.
And you've had you've had Yvette on from Coven. Like she's like my go-to chick, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to have her on the podcast.
Who was that you cut out there? Who is it? Who are you saying?
Yvette
you've had Yvette from Covet.
Oh,
on a few times. Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah. We just had Dave on for the second time. We were doing a taste test for craft beer, and I talked to him prior. I don't want to say back in like May. And they're just cool people, dude. Like that whole band is just fantastic.
They're wonderful. Yeah.
They're so good too.
Forrest is awesome too, and yeah, they're great.
Have you kept in like close contact with most of your friends and colleagues from the music industry when you were doing your touring days in general?
I lost touch with some during that off time, but yeah, I've pretty much gotten back with most people on a consistent basis, and I keep in touch actually with probably. I was just talking about this today. Someone asked me how many people I keep in touch with from the show that I've had on, and probably 70 or 80%, like on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, text or whatever, whether we knew each other before the show or not. Been kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially on tour with like other bands too. Like it's cool to like my number one thing is to try to just like make these bonds and these friendships with these bands I'm touring with, because we're all on the same page. We're all doing the same living in general. And I would like to like just know how they go about their worldview. It's just very interesting to see other people like go about their taste in music. Like when you were not touring with Portugal the Man, you were touring with the Anatomy of a Ghost. You guys also got a chance to tour with Seosin when Anthony Green was still their vocalist. So
yep.
Have you?
Yeah, their first run.
Have you talked to the guys in Seosin at all, like Bo or Anthony or?
I talked to Anthony today, actually.
No kidding.
This afternoon I talked to him. And yeah, Justin and I text back and forth, a couple times a month. He joined the Used for a little while, and then Bo and I never really talked much. He's gonna come on the show at some point, but him and I had never. So it was Justin and Chris. And then Anthony, is who we talked with most. And then, Anthony, I've kept in touch since then, and all the Circa guys. Colin lives pretty close to me here in Portland, and Brennan is doing a podcast now called the Off the Record podcast. So him and I have been in touch, kind of going through how to run that and start that, get that out there. So, I talked to Anthony today.
Yeah, I think he's playing a show locally soon. I don't know how he's going to go about it, but I've heard and read somewhere that he might be playing a show solely, like as a solo act. So I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah, you over by Doylestown or?
Yeah. I'm in Bucks County,
Okay.
Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in
perfect.
Jersey,
Okay.
unfortunately.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jersey's all right. It just depends where you go.
It's all right.
You guys have the
It's all
beaches.
right.
You know what I mean?
Got
Like,
the Sopranos.
I guess. Yeah, you got to pay to go to the beach, but hey.
that's what California's for too. So I gotta get
Yeah.
myself out there. I have so many.
Have you
No,
have
go
you
ahead.
always been in Oregon, or have you did you like recently get up there?
No, I grew up in Alaska. I've been in Oregon since 2000.
So what was the experience like living in Alaska?
It was awesome. It was
Yeah.
great. I would go back in a second. I love it up there.
I've never heard anybody really speak ill about it. I've heard like you would think just because of how austere it is in most of the places. Like were you closer to like Fairbanks or
No,
Anchorage?
I was down by Juneau. I was on a small island called Petersburg.
Okay.
Where I grew up, and then I moved up when I was in 6th grade. We moved up to the mainland in Wasilla, which was about 50 miles outside of Anchorage. And so now it's blown up. Like I think they have a Best Buy and everything there in Wasilla. And then when I was growing up there, though, there wasn't much. There's a bowling alley, and everyone would skateboard at the bank. And we got a Walmart. That was cool. And then
It's
but
really
I've been
so
gone
funny.
for 20 years now, so it's blown up quite a bit up there. And
You haven't been back up there in a while?
I was back up there in 2010
For
twice.
quite some time, yeah.
But yeah, it was cool to see how things had advanced, and it's I think people have the wrong idea about it. It's one of the most majestic places I've ever seen. Like I've never seen mountains like that. It's like if you took a dull painting and turned up the sharpness, like all the mountains are super sharp and jagged and just unforgiving, but it's so beautiful. You just feel calm. And seasons. You got snow, you got sun. In the summertime, it's light all night, and it's like 80 degrees. It's wonderful, and you just can't tour from there without flying down every time. So
Yeah, that
that's
must
what
be
brought
kind
us
of like
down.
a pain. Yeah, that must be a pain.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's a local show or a local scene in Alaska, but if there
Yeah,
is, it'd
would
be
there-
very interesting.
Yeah, would there be what is it like up there as you're starting out as a musician? Like how does that work?
dude, it takes you back in time. Like it takes you back in time to the days. Like you look back at like the 80s, like mid 80s punk rock scene where people are playing like Chinese restaurants and stuff, like the Mabu
After
Gardens
like hours and stuff like that.
yeah, like we played a show at the Little Caesars we worked at. We all worked at Little Caesars, and we played a
so
show there. We would practice there after closing. And it was like in a strip mall, so it was all glass front, so you could see everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we were loading gear out for a show, and the cops like had us get on the ground, guns drawn, thought we were robbing the place.
Oh my god!
And you had to rent out like a rec center if you wanted to do a show, and you had to tell them it was this kind of show. And like the Circle Jerks used to have to do that stuff. Like, okay, it's a punk band, but we do these kind of songs, and trying to get people to let you in, and then you tear it apart until they shut it down. But there was a small club there called Gigs in Anchorage that was amazing. It was two floors. There was like a lounge area upstairs, like beanbag chairs and benches and booths and stuff to hang out and smoke. And then downstairs was the showroom. And so I saw Agent Orange and Fishbone and
Oh man.
Goldfinger was supposed to come up there. I don't
No
think
way.
Unsane came up there. Like it was just random stuff. So like, but in Alaska, whatever band's coming up there is everyone's favorite band, and that's
Yeah.
all. Like touring helps keep your name in the spotlight. Yeah, because you get so excited. Like you start buying. At that point, you'd go buy the records if you didn't have them all, and you'd be excited about it. So like Chili Peppers are supposed to come up, then they're hugely popular. Of course they're already popular, but like everyone's buying Chili Peppers records and trying to get Green Day's coming up, or Ozzy or Pantera, like White Zombie. Like these are bands that came up while I was living there. I was up there for 18 years, and those are, that's almost all the bands that came up there. Like it was a thing when a band came up there, and it's just it's a different world, but it's a great place. I really love it. Some of my best friends still live up there and are now working real jobs and, like the North Slope and flying up and flying back down for stuff. But man, it's just a place. If you're raising kids, it's an amazing place to do it because you can drive 10 minutes any direction and be in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, you have seasons.
Yeah.
You can do stuff. It's awesome.
That's serenity for a lot of people too. Especially for the touring aspect of these bands coming up. I think it's like you only come up at like once in a blue moon and you're going to have a sold out show regardless. Whereas like, you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, just like, for example, like Electric Factory or, I don't know, the Fillmore. I know. And now they changed the name of the Franklin Music Hall, dude. They didn't do much to it, but new ownership is there. They took that sign down too. Like,
really? They also changed They also changed the name of the Electric Factory too. What is that called now?
Yeah, the Franklin Music Hall. Yeah,
that was weird.
That was like the staple of Philadelphia for so long. Hold on, Zach keeps coming in and out.
I was just there in 2018, I think.
Yeah, really? They changed like some of like the interior designing. Like it's not much, but like it's still like the same actual venue. But when these bands come into town, like you said in Alaska, like everybody's going to that show because how often are you going to have Goldfinger or Green Day come up to Alaska? Through a tour rig or through their calendar wise, and on the East Coast, like they have to kind of manage it a little bit differently because they'll probably come like 3 times a year, probably like within a certain area, or they try to like make sure the touring package is different. So
exactly, yeah, it's great. It's just a weird environment. Like it's I've tried to explain it before a couple times, but it's like there's not really anything to gauge it by. Like if you're a band up there and you haven't lived down here or lived a touring lifestyle, like a show is like an event. Like you're playing like Chilkoot Charlie's. Like you'll have your rituals. Like, oh, I need to have this tea and I need to have this. I eat this sandwich before we play a show. Like it's like these ritual things that like bands that are Aussie size would do, and have these things that are prepped for them. But for the band that is playing for 10 people, they treat it more like that than like I just want to play the show. Like it's a whole thing. Like because they see bands that do that, but they don't see the small side. So it's just weird thing. It's really hard to explain it. You have to kind of live it to understand it. But it's weird. It's like an event. It's like a big deal versus, all right, we're playing this Friday and then we're playing next Saturday. And, it's like, oh man, in 3 weeks we're playing a show.
Yeah. And that's just as big as like a festival. Like that is just as big as a festival, if not bigger.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's super cool. Do you miss any of the touring days by any chance? Like, do you miss getting out there back on the road? Yeah, me too.
I don't miss being, in a van or a bus for, 10 hours a day. And I don't miss being sick on the road. I don't miss having to like try to find a rest stop, when you're in the middle of nowhere. You got to go to the bathroom. Like, I don't miss any of that, but I do miss, seeing everything. Like you're seeing so much and meeting all kinds of people and playing in different countries and stuff for people that seem to know your music. And it's just cool. It's cool. Something that I think everyone should experience, but not everyone's interested in that. So,
I experienced that. I've seen my bandmates get sick, like on tour, and it looks like the worst time. And we told him, I said, where did we go? We went to eat we stopped at like a local restaurant. It had to have been just like a diner or something. And he got fish. I was like, dude, you should really get something else other than fish at this, standalone diner in the middle of nowhere. Like, please, for the love of God.
That's your first mistake right off the bat, man.
You don't eat fish in a state that's landlocked. That's rule number 1. If it does not touch the coast, you do not eat fish.
Yeah, man. Like that's such a mistake right off the bat.
Rule number 1 from the very first tour.
Yeah. And we were in the Midwest too, so that that sums up you're saying.
Yeah.
So he got sick, but I'd never experienced that. But I think just like the fact of, like you said, missing all these people and just like chilling, hanging, you go on a show, you play for 30 to 40 minutes, and then you're done. And then you head off and do your thing.
It's the original Facebook. Like it's basically, you catch up with someone on Facebook every couple months, maybe you check and see what they're doing and maybe write them a message. With touring, you're there. You show up and like, oh, hey man, how's it going? Yeah. So, oh yeah, what'd you do since last summer? Like, it's real life Facebook. It's weird. Like you have all these connections. They're all over the place, and friendships that continue for a long time because you see each other regularly. Mm-hmm. That's another cool thing that I miss.
What's like your favorite city to go through in your career?
I love Denver. I really love Denver. It's a great town, and I have a blast there. Yeah, I was never a big fan of New York City, but I've had some fun there. But shows, no one cares who you are. Even when you're big, no one cares who you are. Mm-hmm. But it's you need to just be anonymous for a little while. Like, it's kind of cool. Yeah, I really like Denver. I really like Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is always a great town. The Catalyst, we usually play there. I love that place. Yeah, those are kind of my favorite spots.
Have you had I assume you have contacts and you have probably the ability to go out and do some touring again. Did you ever think about maybe stepping back into that world, or is that just not a possibility for you think?
No, I don't think I could. I mean, I could probably get some crew spots if I wanted to. Yeah. But I don't think I would do much as far as I couldn't commit to what a band would need. I wouldn't put them in that position of even asking because, I know I couldn't commit like they would need. Yeah, I would love to go out for a couple weeks or go to Australia or go to Japan and, either tech for somebody or whatever. But
we were talking to Clint Tustin from Galactic Empire, and he was just talking about where he's been and recent tours that he's been with Galactic Empire, and he was just saying how the crowds out in Japan just give off such a different vibe and just the way their culture is in terms of the amount of respect that they give you and how quiet it is before the gig. And he's I'm backstage and I can't hear a thing and I can't tell if anybody's out in the audience or anything like that. But then when he comes out, they're the craziest fans ever.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. That's something I've always wanted to do is I want to experience an Asian country, especially Japan, China. I would love to see that.
Yeah. I've been told Japan is like a video game or another universe, like an alien planet, not because of the people, but because of the lights and what is advertised and the food. It's all completely so different that it feels.
I've heard the food. Planet. Heard the food's the game changer there.
I bet.
Everything, even when it comes to fast food and stuff, because I got a couple of friends that live there, and they said that the food is just on another freaking level, man. That's what keeps people there.
Yeah, you gotta like seafood.
Dude, yeah, that's where you can eat seafood. Not at a diner in the Mideast, dude. That's where you really
that delicacy, a diner
out in the middle of Siberia on a train, but yeah, Japan, you can have a slice of fish.
That's funny. I was watching Anthony Bourdain today. I was on YouTube and it just came up and it was him. I don't know why. I just thought it was kind of endearing, him at a Waffle House, and he'd never been to a Waffle House before until he did. I think it was I don't think it was No Reservations. I think it was just the Parts Unknown, and it's just him at a Waffle House, this super famous dude that's been everywhere, in the most austere places on the planet, and he's in here experiencing a freaking Waffle House with a world-renowned chef. And I'm this is just weird.
Dude, Waffle House was always a consistent spot. That there was always a waitress that was complaining and bitching about her husband or her boyfriend to the cook, who was trying not to listen but make it seem like he was. Yeah, while every time, no matter the time of day, it was Blanche at the counter, yelling back to whoever about her boyfriend, and that goes hand in hand with finding places to go to the bathroom in the middle of nowhere. Is Waffle House the aftermath?
You had a good one too when you got security posted up outside.
Yeah, it's consistent and but it's cheap and it's delicious it's always, you can get it quick and they're everywhere over there. So
especially if you got this layer of alcohol sitting in your stomach that just needs to be soaked up by something, and a delicious waffle comes out. It's waffles. Heaven on a plate, bro. That is where it's at.
I was trying to describe to somebody a few months back about Waffle House and all the slang for it, for chunked and smothered, covered and capped, and what all that means, and trying to remember them all and without looking it up on the phone. And I couldn't get through very many. I couldn't even remember.
That's like the biggest problem with like being up in this area is the fact that Waffle House like starts right in Delaware. So we're just so close to it, but we don't have any. But we have like obviously a diner like a stone's throw away in any direction that you look. But
Mm-hmm.
like that's the biggest thing I always wanted was a Waffle House around here. Like and I'm still like petitioning for that. Like that would be like the ultimate sign of respect by the Waffle House organization to put one in Jersey.
You literally have every franchise restaurant in New Jersey besides a Waffle House. I don't have a Waffle House here.
Exactly.
Like, dude,
It's a
when we're
travesty.
jamming, we DoorDash anything, and it's like literally you can have whatever you want besides a Waffle House. I
Yeah,
don't
your
think that's
mind
ever
was
gonna
blown
happen.
that
Except
first time
In-N-Out
that
Burger. I don't think you guys have that one.
Oh, we don't have
No.
that either.
Oh.
No.
We have that
plan on
now
stopping.
about 30 miles south of here, and I still haven't gone. It's been here almost a year
Wait,
because
they
it's so
They
packed.
just got it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I thought it would have been up there already. I didn't realize it was it was literally secluded to California. That's it.
Yeah, it's in Vegas, and it's in Medford, Oregon, and now Kaiser Station in by Salem.
And you still haven't gone yet. What are you
Well,
doing?
the waits are like hour and a half,
Oh,
sometimes
my
3
God.
hours, and I'm like, they're not going to do that. I love In-N-Out. It's one of my favorites. But man, I will not. I'd rather. I could fly to L.A. faster than I could drive to Salem and sit in line. I could fly to L.A. and right outside of LAX, right after the first overpass. There's an In-N-Out, and I could go there faster than going to Kaiser Station.
Yeah, once you go through those kind of mental hoops, I'd pretty much be completely discouraged at that point too. So that's pretty sad.
We were close to having In-N-Out. It was like a nice hot topic for like a second, but In-N-Out only takes their beef from local farmers. Like that's their whole thing. That's why they won't really franchise the whole restaurant in itself. And we have a local farm here called Shady Brook Farms, and it was in consideration. Like we have this, what is it? A Sonic that's been vacant for so long. Now it's an Arby's, but it was vacant for so long. And they were thinking about just taking that Sonic and putting it up into like a In-N-Out. I was like, oh, please, for the love of God, like, please put it out there. And like now it's Arby's. I'm like, all right, well, I'm disappointed. I'll just keep doing my daily routine. Like, what the fuck? Like,
I mean, like our In-N-Out is Wawa. So
yeah, basically, yeah.
like I was out of the country for an extended period of time, and I never like thought Wawa lived up to the hype. I really didn't. Like I definitely appreciate Wawa. It's always been there for me, especially in times of need. But it was like I always thought it was kind of overrated, and then I wasn't around it, and then I realized how much I relied upon a freaking Wawa, especially like their iced teas, dude. That was the hardest time of my life was not having a Wawa. But now you got them in like Florida too.
Yeah, for now.
So they're branching out.
I think one of the owners like kind of moved down to Florida and was just like, you know what, I need to have this here for
Probably.
my sake. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Have you toured like throughout the whole country, Dewey?
Oh yeah, I've been everywhere.
Everywhere. I
Yeah.
think the only
Yeah.
place I haven't been was the West Coast. That's about it. Because we've been to Canada and the Midwest, but we haven't reached the West Coast.
Yeah,
Was
I've been to every state many times, and then Hawaii just on vacation. Never played there, but and we played Alaska, of course. But yeah, done it all.
Do you have a favorite area to tour in, like in general?
Like regionally,
Yeah.
well, California is always fun because the weather's always nice. East
So
Coast,
big
you don't
too.
get the nice weather consistently like California, but yeah, I liked our runs in California for In-N-Out because In-N-Out's always around. And yeah, the shows are always good, and any meetings you need to take are there. Like it's good. But then yeah, East Coast, I used to hate all the toll roads and like the
they're bad.
weird like turnpike
yeah.
this and
Yeah, right
Yeah.
here's really bad. Between like Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey, it's terrible. Like everywhere you go, you might as well take out like $100 so you can just drive on the freaking road.
it's crazy. Yeah, but yeah, definitely like California, Utah was always fun. Shows are always good there. So like that whole like the West, I prefer the West Coast over the East Coast for touring, for sure. Just as far as comfort and everything's a little more spread out.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
most of those, most of the touring that you've done, like a lot of the people that you've met and collaborated with or conversated with, like you've also had them on your podcast. I mean, you've had like a plethora of people. I think you're like over a couple hundred episodes. But who do you like remember in the back of your head that when you started doing this, like whether it's from the beginning or it's up until now, like who were some of your favorite conversations with on your show?
Man, that's a tough one. I like a lot of them. That's the thing with my shows. It's like every one of them's like a unique conversation. So it's not. I don't really say like I got to interview so and so. Like I just talked with so and so for whatever period of time. The Ian MacKaye one was awesome early on. That was a great one to start out with. As far as I was like episode 23 or something like that.
Mhm.
The Fat Mike from NoFX one was pretty legendary.
Is he like one of your heroes? Like
Yeah, well, he was since I was a teenager. That's when I first discovered NoFX, and to be able to go down to his house and sit in the studio and listen to the new NoFX record, jamming on his bass that he played. He has like 4 basses. Like he's not like a gear nerd or anything. He has gear he's had for so long. Seeing like the bass he played, in Alaska when we were teenagers, sitting there playing it in his living room.
Oh, that's crazy.
All on a whim, like from a 20-minute phone call to an airplane to there. Like things like that have been crazy. But that was a good conversation. Yeah, there's a bunch. It's hard to pin it down, but Ian MacKaye, Fat Mike, Josh from Code and Cambria. That was an awesome chat.
Oh, I'm sure.
That was one of the few times I said yes when the publicist said you can have 20 minutes, and we went for 2.5 hours. That was, and I don't. If they say 20 minutes, I just say never mind. I don't even get into it.
Yeah, I've heard such good things about Coheed. Everybody in that band, they were apparently like the coolest dudes. So
they're incredible. Yeah, the whole band, they're amazing, and it's awesome. Josh is back in the band and doing their thing, and we went deep on that one. Chris too from Anti-Flag. We went really deep on that one because him and I had a lot of similarities of awful things that we've done or gone through in our life, and the similarities. I don't usually talk about my personal stuff on my show because it's more about who I'm talking to, but the similarities were so freaky that I was like, dude, we got to talk about this because there's the fact that all this is happening to both of us is crazy.
Wow.
So,
that is interesting. That is very interesting. Yeah, it's like saying like, who's your favorite kid? It's like I can't pick my favorite kid. You know what I mean?
I mean, everybody's got a favorite kid, though. Come on now.
I don't have any kids, so I can't say that. And I think it's even cooler too because I'm sure, like, well, first of all, before I get into my next question, I was going to ask you, but like 20 minutes is not a podcast. Podcasts are very long conversations in general. Like, why would they pitch something for 20 minutes? That's interesting.
Yeah, well, it's because they're in a press junket. They just released a record, or they just released a book, and they're doing 9 of those that day.
Oh God.
Well, speaking of that, the Chino Moreno episode was pretty memorable too. That one was a weird. It came about in a really weird way, and it still continues on to now. But he was talking about that, like how he's got 9 or 12 interviews set up, like 10, 15 minutes apiece, back to back with the same questions over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But you have to just roll with it because it's a different country, or it's a different, like it's not like everyone's going to be reading this all 12 of these. They're going to get it in their local area, and that's it.
Yeah, that's true. And like, with my follow up on that, like, and you actually, came to a partnership, as it says behind you with, EVR. Congratulations. That's like a huge, milestone. How did that relationship build? How did that come into contact? Like, because before I started this podcast, I actually, because this is recent for you, right? With EVR, like very recent.
We announced, it's been going on for a while, but we announced it, about a month and a half ago.
Okay. Yeah. That's when I saw it too. I was like, oh wow, you made it like a partnership. That's pretty cool. Like, how'd that all go about, dude? Like, I'm stoked for you.
Thank you. First off, it's something that's been growing for a long time. Dan, back when Anatomy of a Ghost was getting like a bidding war going on us, Equal Vision was one of the labels that wanted us, and Fearless was another one. Fearless offered us way more money, and we were young, and so we took it, and we turned Equal Vision down. But Dan came to every show still, even though we turned him down, and was always checking in on us, and just a good man, and we've just stayed in touch over the years. And when I started the podcast, he started listening to the podcast and had enjoyed what he heard, and he thought I had an original style and just liked the way I did things. And I hit him up one day, and I was just like, I was frustrated because I was like, man, if I could just get like a title sponsor for the show that would cover costs and travel and stuff like that, like I would be set. Like I don't need to make a bunch of money from the show. As long as everything's covered, like, you know, because there's this podcast called Turn Out a Punk with Damian Abraham from Fucked Up. And it's, you know, Turned Out a Punk presented by Vans, right? Vans pays for everything. And he got back to me. He's like, man, what if we did that? Like, what do you mean? He's like, what if we did that? Like covered all your costs and travel and stuff and did like a partnership thing like that. That's really never been done before with a record label and a podcast. And I was like, you know what? You're right. It hasn't. Let's talk about this. So we spent weeks going back and forth on ideas on how to do it and how to execute it and what it would bring to both of us. And we came to an agreement and here we are. So it was really, and Dan's been one of my biggest supporters from day one with music, and then everything we've been a part of. I mean, he signed Portugal the Man early on, put out a couple records from them, and until they jumped up to Atlantic, and that relationship continues. I mean, it's just a family atmosphere. Like I'm here. This is now my studio. It's the West Coast office. You know, I have a key to the place.
That's cool.
I come and go as I need,
awesome.
set shit up. Like, yeah, I got a bathroom key right here. Like,
Hey,
it's
there you
family,
go.
man. It's
That's how
family.
you know you made it.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, when I got the key of the office, I did the first interview here that I was doing, or conversation rather, and everyone was gone, and there wasn't a bathroom key left here, and I had to go to the bathroom so bad, so I had to like find a long screw and bend it and like pick the door to the bathroom in one of the bathrooms here, and I made it work. But soon after that, there was a bathroom key because it's in a big historic building. Mm-hmm. So like out of this door, there's 2 bathrooms on each floor that you share with the other places, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. I had to go DIY there.
There's a little DIY, honestly. I mean, I was listening to a podcast recently. So that used to be Rise Records' old office?
That's what I thought, but I was wrong. Their office was further out of town. This is one they scouted out when they partnered up.
Okay.
Here, so.
But then they're in LA now.
Rise is in LA, yes. When Rise went to LA, they basically told everyone that you're not coming with us. And so Dan came in again. Dan saved the day and hired everybody as Equal Vision employees that were going to lose their jobs with Rise, and said find a space. And instead of going to LA with EVR for the West Coast, they came up here. So
I'm gonna buy that man a cape,
dude. Seriously,
like that's insane, dude. Like he literally just swooped in and was like, "Here, come on, let's just everybody's gonna be a part of Equal EVR.
Yep.
Like, let's go."
Beautiful.
I know it's based out of New York, and always has been.
Albany. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just like when I was listening to the podcast, I was like, I guess they got an office in Portland. Like it was just very fascinating that they're actually starting to expand their offices in general.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. It's a great spot. And Matthew Gordner runs this office, and I mean it's unbelievable, the decor, and he's such a good host. Like the first time I walked in, like he handed me an ice cold Smart Water, and I was just like, where am I? Like I feel like I was in Entourage with where Ari Gold, like, did you get him a water? Like I have a water, like, where would you like to record? Like setting up stuff, like just it's just beautiful people. I love each and every one of them at EVR, and so it's a good spot. It's a good place to be. I wanted to be on EVR in some way for 20 plus years, and it's finally happened. So
yeah, I'm sure if you ask for just like red and brown M&Ms, I'm sure they'll give them to you. So I mean,
I would never do that, but I'm pretty sure if I really asked for it, like sincerely, maybe it would happen, but not because I would get that. It's just to be funny. They would totally do that.
Oh, that is totally funny.
And then they would joke about it all for forever. Yeah.
It's so dude, that would make me lose my mind. I think that's so funny. Like it's all for good fun. Like honestly. If you do something like that, like I would do that in a heartbeat. Like, yeah, it's just the college, just 2 college M&Ms, thanks.
Yeah, it's way nicer than recording in my car. I love recording in my car.
Don't say.
I've done it for so long. Like, I've done it for so long. I felt I'd go find a nice spot by a park the car, and fire it up. And then I've realized you could get a dynamic microphone and you can't hear the air conditioning running on those hot days, because I sweated out a few, like, where I was like dripping sweat by the end and like had to cut it off short almost because I was going to pass out to keep the noise down. But yeah, so it's way better than recording in my car. And I have a house in Portland here, but it's like 100 and however many years old. So if the kids move or breathe, you can hear it. You know, you can hear it in the basement. So fuck, that's not going to be a studio. The garage is awesome, but it's too hot and too cold. There's no climate control. That's not going to make a studio. So finally I have a house. I'm like, yes, I could build a studio in here. Nope. And I was like, wait a minute, the EVR office. And there we go.
Yeah. Plus, you can have the guests come to the EVR office, considering, like, you know, most of it has been done probably. Like, how much of your guests have been through internet bases with these podcasts? How often do they come through all of them?
As far as the in person, I've done, I don't know, maybe 30% in person. The rest have been on the phone or whatever. I use Skype a couple times, but it wasn't super reliable for me where I was at. So a phone always seemed to work. So I just started doing that. A lot of phone calls. Could do them anywhere and didn't need any kind of connection except for a cell connection. And yeah. No,
that's true. I mean, well, now you have both options. Like, whether, I mean, if it would be in person or not, like, you can take advantage of it solely now that you have that office. Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool, pretty cool, because, like, the fact that, you know, I'm sure, like, your kids don't mean to, like, rattle up your podcast, like, during, like, recording or anything, but I think it would be, like, something that's interesting that they can, like, eventually look back on and, like, you know, see you doing, considering your dad used to be on the radio as well. Like, so I think it's pretty cool that, like, you know, this is something that, like, your kids can also look back on, like, you know, in the near future that you've been doing for so long, that you'll continue to keep doing as well.
Oh yeah, I've done podcasts with them, just as they wanted to be a guest on it. So I did a little one on my phone. I should put it out sometime. It's funny with my son, but
that's
he loves it, and he's Dad, can we listen to my podcast? Sure. And I pull it up on my phone, and he can listen to what we were talking about that day. And so I think we're going to do it every year. We'll do a podcast with both of them, and they can hear kind of them growing up.
I mean, like this is still like a relatively new like subgenre of the internet, so it does act as like an archive. I mean, today we had Eddie Van Halen die, and the big thing was with him was there's really no interviews with him in terms of him just being authentic Eddie. Is pretty much what I gathered, and I really never noticed it. Like, we all knew he was in bad health, and that his days are kind of numbered. But it's like with that generation of like rock stars and musicians and just like overall people. Like, can you imagine if we had like that kind of access to guys like Jimmy, Eddie Van Halen, like Stevie Ray Vaughan? Like, there's just nothing like that. Like, now with this kind of like this renaissance of how we're conducting interviews, like radio's kind of on its way out and podcasts are on the way in, and it's kind of like this Wild West territory. It's like when we look back in 20 years on this stuff, especially with your kids, I mean, like, you can see this stuff and it's going to be really endearing to watch it and like see where everything was. And like, you got perfect video, you got everything you could ask for at like a click of a button.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting time. A lot of stuff's getting documented, and I mean, you can have a podcast on everything from basket weaving to running shoes to, I mean, it's insane the amount that's out there. So it's the Wild West.
How long was your dad in radio for?
He did it one night a week. It's like a volunteer thing. The whole radio station on that island I grew up on was volunteer. So Thursday nights he'd go in and record, and Friday afternoon at 3:00 it would air. And maybe 3 or 4 years he did it before we moved.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That must have been a subliminal thing of like interest for you. You know what I mean? Like to get involved in the podcast, you're like, oh, like it's something relatable. It was just really fucking cool.
Yeah, he loved the show, and he yeah, he was always talking about it and joking about how, putting us side by side. The last episode I did it was with Johnny from Portugal, and excuse me, the latest episode came out yesterday. Today.
Today, yeah.
But
or 6, something like that.
yeah. So the last one was on his 1-year death anniversary. So I put his radio show Send Off on there, and then putting my voice next to his looks almost identical.
Wow.
Even back from the 80s, like it looks really close in the waveforms.
That's trippy.
And yeah, so it was fun to see that side by side with me sending him off on that. And yeah, I was there in the room while he was recording. I was just watching him go, and I was very, very young, so it was definitely something that got put in my mind.
What was the content he put out? Like what was it in?
It was called The Big John Show. So it was basically he played music and would just like lead into it with a little bit of words here and there. He didn't really say a whole lot. He did a big intro and like a little outro, but he'd just be like, here's the latest from Hart or Tom Petty or whatever, and just get super excited about it. And
that's so cool, man.
That was it. And so people would get their rock and roll show on Friday afternoons, and that was kind of their deal.
Do you have anybody that you're looking forward to talking to as upcoming guests on the show for the Pure Pleasure?
Oh, tons. Got a whole bunch coming up that I'm excited about. Not some I can't talk about, but yeah, Anthony's. When I was talking to Anthony today, he's going to come on for a part 2 because I've had him on the show before. So Anthony Green, and yeah, I don't usually talk about it because I don't want to jinx it. If it's ones that I haven't had on before that are bigger guests, I don't. I feel like if I say something about it, it doesn't happen.
I know what you mean.
It's also kind of like a little treat too for your viewers that are out there every time they see it pop up.
Yeah. But no, we got some bangers coming out. It'll be good.
I think the coolest thing about everything is that you've been doing it for so long. I think this is like just this art form has been around for quite some time, but it's really starting to pick up like recently. You know what I mean? Like like podcasting is like now in. And there's very rare, podcasts of like certain, industries, depending on what they are. Like with music industry, like I think there's a couple handful, and we're just like slowly getting into it, with us right now. Do you have any like tips and tricks or any kind of advice for like, people like us just starting this? We've been doing this for almost 6 months right now. Or for people who've been doing it for quite longer, like, do you have any like insight to possibly, grow within your art form in general?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's I don't know how useful it'll be, but I mean, with podcasting, it's a conversation between 2 people, 3 people, whatever. It's a pretty natural thing if you think about it. I mean, you get into a conversation with someone at a bus stop or a doctor's office or something. Like, it's pretty easy to start up a conversation or be sucked into one. But I mean, just respect people's time. Like be on time. That's my Dan always jokes he could set his watch by our weekly call because I call him the second it turns. Like I'm there 2 minutes early waiting for the clock to turn to the time, and then I press send on the phone. And every time he picks up the phone, just says, right on time. So be on time, be early, that's just basic courtesy. But as far as the medium of podcasting, I mean, it depends on kind of what subject you want to talk about as far as advice goes, because there's so much to it. But if you go into it with a pure mind and pure heart, as far as like, I genuinely want to talk to this person, you're going to have a good time. And, you'll be sometimes a little nervous before you get on the phone or get on whatever, but that's natural. And that just means you care, Yeah. It's when your gut's telling you like, oh, that anxiety creeps in, that means it's probably going to be a good one, and the times I've had that where right before I pick up the phone or whatever, walk into the room, where I'm nervous and I'm like, man, I shouldn't even be doing this. Like, those are some of the best ones I've ever done. By the end, So, yeah. And then just if you're putting out honest content, like, you can promote it and it's going to promote itself. People are going to talk about it, and it's funny that being genuine is something people talk about now instead of anything else. Like, it's like, wow, it's just so raw and real. It's like, well, yeah,
yeah.
Because I don't edit the shows. I don't do that. I cut off the phone ringing, and if someone has to go to the bathroom or something, I'll cut that silence out. Or if someone specifically calls me afterwards and says, hey, I shouldn't have said that about this, like, it's not out yet, or I'll go in and pull that out. Other than that, it's exactly the way it comes out of what you hear on the show. And I hear people that spend, the show's an hour long every week, and they spend 20 hours on it. Probably you could find a better way to do it, or set yourself up better so you don't have to spend that amount of time. Shouldn't take that long.
Yeah,
you don't edit a conversation you had at the doctor's office with somebody, right? Like, you just don't do it because you can't.
Right.
Treat it the same way. Just do it.
You're supposed to have the mistakes. You're supposed to have, like, the hiccups, like, that go with it, within conversation. Like, sometimes I have like a small stutter, like I just did right there, but that's not gonna be edited out. You know what I mean? Like, it's genuine, dude. Like, I think genuine is like something new that people can't, that they're starting to realize what that word even means. So it's cool.
Yeah.
It's a perfect art form. But no, we sincerely appreciate you coming on. It sounds like you have so much, going forward, with everything, with the Peer Pleasure podcast. And, I'm looking forward. I'm sure a lot of other people and our viewers and our listeners are going to be looking forward to some of the content that you're coming out with in the near future.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a punch coming. I've got, I don't know, probably 15 in the can already, and we're doing, more. So we're trying to find a way to get them all out in a timely manner. So
awesome, man.
Out of respect for everybody, the guest, and not having their episode come out 3 months later, which has happened a couple times. Which sucks, but it's just how it works.
It happens. We had to reschedule a couple of times too, like Zach and I, with a couple of our past guests that, like, we finally record the episodes, but we'd reschedule, and, like, it is what it is. Like, there's nothing you can do. Like, just try to make the best of it. That's all I think at it as. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, but I really sincerely appreciate it, brother. So we'll keep in touch, and keep safe out there. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for making today work too, man. I know you've been all over the place today, so dude. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all. I appreciate the time, and time's valuable, so I appreciate it, and this was good.